Hello, my name is Tim, and I want to welcome you to Tim's Reflections from Ohio, a YouTube video series where we talk about, think about, and reflect on parables that Jesus told, stories he told, as well as just stories about his life. In today's reflection, we'll cover a couple of scriptures, and I'll be reading specifically, both of them are in the book of Mark. And the first one is found in Mark chapter 1, and we'll begin reading in verse 21, where it says, "Then they went into Capernaum, and immediately on the Sabbath he entered the synagogue and taught. And they were astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. But there was a man in their synagogue with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, saying, 'Let us alone. What have we to do with you, Jesus of Nazareth? Did you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God.'" And then from there, we'll jump over to Mark chapter 5, and we read this, starting in verse 1. "Then they came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes. And when he had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. And always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshipped him. And he cried out with a loud voice and said, 'What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God that you do not torment me.' And it says, 'For he had said to him, Come out of the man, unclean spirit.'" So here we have a couple of examples of where the demons recognized who Jesus was. And as I've read these recently in my time that I spend with God each day, read both of these passages recently, I was struck by the fact that the demons recognized who Jesus was. They said, "I know who you are." And while they recognized who he was, the religious leaders did not. They refused to recognize who Jesus was. And I've been reflecting on this question: if Jesus were alive on our earth today, walking on our earth today physically, would we as Christians, would we recognize him? Would we expect him to be, if he were walking on this earth, would we expect him to be seen in the big churches of today and with the big evangelists and speaking in those situations? Would we expect him to be in Washington giving counsel to our government leaders, or in Hollywood? Or would we expect him to be in those places? One of the things that the people, the religious leaders, accused him of is when he was on this earth was hanging out with tax collectors and sinners. And I have a feeling that if he were walking on this earth today, he would be with the common people, with the sinners, he would be at the abortion clinic, he would be at the soup kitchen, he would be at the rescue mission, he would be at the AIDS clinic, he would be in those places helping and encouraging hurting people. Would we truly recognize him today if he were walking on this earth and those were the people that he surrounded himself with? The outcasts of society, the homeless, the destitute, the unemployed, the people with the low-paying jobs, maybe the people on public assistance. Would we recognize Jesus as for who he really is if he were walking on our streets today? The best way that we can have to recognize him is to know him, to not just know about him. We can say, yeah, I know about Jesus. I've read about him in the Bible. But knowing about someone is not the same thing as knowing them personally. I love history. I know about historical people. I've read biographies. I've read stories about them, but I do not know them because it's very different. Knowing someone, knowing about them, two totally different things. And we need to know Jesus on a personal level, not just know about him, not just know the stories that he told. We need to know him on a personal level. And the best way to do that is, if we think about it, here's an example, a dating relationship. A couple, a guy and a girl, are in a dating relationship. They get to know each other I heard a pastor talk about this one time. They go places, they do things together, they talk to each other, they listen to each other talk. And that's the same way that we get to know Jesus. We talk to him in prayer. We let him talk to us through his word, through our Bibles. And we do things with him. We share him with others, with our friends and with our neighbors. That's the best way to personally get to know Jesus and who he really is. And if we know him on a personal level, if he was walking on this earth today, we would recognize, hey, that's Jesus over there. We would know that. We would know that. And we would know his voice when he speaks to us. If we think about that in the Bible, Abraham, when God spoke to him and told him to go and offer up his son Isaac, he knew that was the voice of God because he had heard God talk to him. He had talked to God. They were friends. And we can have that same friendship with our Father in heaven and with Jesus if we will just put the time and effort into us. So reflect on today. If Jesus were on this earth, would you recognize who he was? And also reflect on the fact of how much time do you spend every day talking to him, listening to him talk to you, and then how much time do we spend sharing him with others around us? That's it for today. Thank you so much. I appreciate your viewing the video. I hope you have a blessed week. If you've been blessed by this reflection, please hit the thumbs up button there at the bottom. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. You'll receive notifications when new videos come out. Hope you have a blessed week, and remember that God loves you.